Righto guys, finally back with the RB. This thing has just become one of those things. It opened a can of worms is pretty much what happened. So I've ended up going through with a lot of things that weren't budgeted for. Basically, as you guys already know, I'm trying to do this on a real tight budget for this bloke. You know, I pulled it down, it had like the standard Nissan timing set on it. So I was like, I'm gonna have to get a timing set. Still got that standard timing set on it, it's probably still got the standard water pump on it. So I was like, gonna have to replace the water pump. Like it's, those sorts of things I can't just not do and just put it back in the car. That would be just, I can't do it. So I was like, well, you know, I already needed cam seals, so that's not a big deal. I was like, I'm gonna have to do a rear main, so I had to buy a rear main. And obviously the cam seal kits come with a new front main, and I'm like, oh, I may as well do the front main while it's this far. It just so happens that this one has a timing gear that's not grown to the crank. It actually came off fine, which is very rare for an RB. So considering that that came off so easily, I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal just to pull the oil pump off and do the front main as well. But that's where I'm drawing the line. I've got to draw the line somewhere because this just keeps going, and that's where I'm drawing the line. I'm drawing the line at pulling the oil pump off. Just going to put a new front main seal in it, and that's going to be it. It's going to go back together after that. We're going to be good. We've got the head back here. Machine shop fixed the head, did a great job. So the head's sorted, which is awesome. The sump I've pulled off and welded our Dash 8 return into it so that I can put our head drain in the head and get that sorted as well. So we've got everything sorted here to do all that. But I did have to wait for a few things when I decided to do the rear main. Had to wait for that to get here and stuff. But like I pulled the rear main off and it's got this wild groove in the crank. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy. But I'm hoping that the seal will just seal over that groove. Fingers crossed, because there's not much else we can do about it, short of pulling the crank. So I'm sort of at a point now where I sort of need this back together and out of the engine room. And obviously the owner wants his car back because it's been here for a freaking long time. So it's just the way COVID and everything gone, and the way the job was meant to happen, and then COVID really screwed up all the secondhand stuff we wanted to do, and then what was going to be just a head gasket and head studs and a head drain turned into what is now timing, front rear mains, and everything else. Had to send the head away to get fixed. You know, it's open to can of worms, and it's been absolutely not what was intended to be. But it's time to sort of get it back together and get it out of here. So I went and got Baldy's old exhaust off him. So I bought Baldy's old R33 exhaust off him, which is going to get us out of trouble with an exhaust for way cheap. Obviously something like that's so much cheaper than making one from scratch. That takes so long and it's so much material. So we did that to get him out of trouble. So all I have to do is make a dump pipe to then suit Zach's old exhaust, and then we've got ourselves a full 3-inch exhaust for it. So that plus the ECU install and finish off the intake piping should have this thing pretty much sorted from me. I'm going to get on a max speeding rod, see if they would like to sponsor a high cast lock bar, and potentially still pull this sump and weld that up for pull his diff and still weld that up for him so that his diff and high cast lock and everything's sorted, and then I can go back to him tuned and ready for him to have some fun and get the car back and get it painted and everything else, because it has been here for a long time. My apologies, but it's just been such a pain the way the job has panned out. The way gearbox prices and stuff for 25DE+t boxes and even just R33 5-stud hubs and brakes and stuff are at the moment, and I just don't have the time to keep chasing up second-hand stuff. I simply don't have it. So get done what we've got to do and get this in the car and get it sorted and get it back to him. And this is precisely the reason why. Look at that. Really good water pump, that one. Really good. Yep. Alright, well, another one of those things on this engine, which seems to be a theme of this thing, is like one of those things that I decided to do, and I'm really glad I did, because it wouldn't have done very well at all. So, you know, it seems to be the going things. A lot of things on this engine that weren't meant to be done that I ended up deciding to do in the end. And every time I've done them, I've been like, oh wow, I'm glad I did that, otherwise this wouldn't have lasted. A water pump is another one of them. So, like, if we had done what was originally discussed to do this thing when it got here, and just left it at that, and I wasn't already at this point, this thing wouldn't have lasted long at all. It would have gone, it wouldn't have lasted. It would have not good at all. Anyway, given how corroded that was, I think I'm going to have to pull the thermostat out as well and check that. It's another one of those things where if that's that corroded, I don't have much hope for the thermostat in this thing, and it's a lot easier to just put a new one in it now, even though it's not quoted for or in the budget, than it is going to be to deal with it once it's in the car. So yet another one of those things. It just doesn't seem this thing's ever going to end. Alright, so this happened. This is where I was drawing the line, and I've gone over that line and pulled the pump apart. I really wish I wasn't like this. I really wish I could just let things go, but I suppose if I was like that, I probably wouldn't be as good as I am at doing my job, which is to pay attention to detail and not let things go. So anyway, I pulled the pump apart just because it was so freaking filthy that I had to clean it. And to clean it, get water in it and stuff like that, I had to pull it apart and pull the gears out. I just had to. So that's where that is, and that's what happened to that. Now, I've sorted the head out, given it a good wash, and tapped and sorted out the rear head drain. I didn't film any of that just because I've done it a few times specifically for videos of how to do Ross rear head drains. So if you'd like to know, hit the link, I don't know which one, and go and watch a video specifically on how to do that. But I didn't bother filming it for this one because it was loud and I've done it before, etc. But anyway, head's pretty much ready to go on, it's cleaned up, and this stuff's all cleaned out, pretty much ready to go. Alright guys, so here ready to start getting this bloody thing back together. Even though we've gone a lot further than I intended, but it's going to be much better in the long run. Feel a lot better about it. So we've got some new seals going on, new front and rear mains in, ready to go. So basically just start ready, put it all back together. New water pump ready to go. So yeah, not much to report. I might just chuck these on a time lapse. You can watch me put it together. There's going to be nothing that I have not already been through before when it comes to RBs. So just start smashing through it. This thing really is just the gift that keeps on giving. So after that water pump incident, I talk about how I should definitely check the thermostat, given that's how the water pump looked. So anyway, I remembered as I was putting the oil pump back on that I hadn't actually taken the thermostat housing off, so I thought I better take that off and check the thermostat, and guess what? There's not even a freaking thermostat in it. Someone's just put this together without a thermostat. So anyway, it is obvious that I'm glad I did that, and we'll actually put a freaking thermostat back in this thing. Alright boys and girls, RB is coming along. We are getting there. We've got our cams back in, it's timed, all our timing gear is back on, our new timing gear. Starting to look much like a motor again. Probably the best this motor's looked in a very long time. So what I actually did is after I got it timed, I just oiled a few things up and turned it over a heap of times. And then I decided to take the liberty of doing a leak down test. Now, because we went and just yeeted this thing out of the 33, to be completely honest, I did not expect it to be in this sort of condition when I pulled the engine out of that car. At that point, I wasn't too worried about, you know, leak down tests, compression tests, and that you know, there wasn't really a problem at that point because it was just meant to be pull it out, put the head studs in, do a few other things, our rear head drain and stuff, and put it back in and send it. But obviously that turned into what it is now when we're this deep into the thing. So we are getting quite a bit of leakage out of all the intake and exhaust ports, is what I'm finding. You know, the leak down test is not looking very good at this stage at a first glance, and we are getting a lot of leakage out of there. Unfortunately, it is just a consequence of trying to do things on such a tight budget. It just is what it is. Without doing a complete rebuild, you know, doing a complete valve service, doing a complete re-ring, there's not much we can do about it, which is big, you know, much bigger dollars than we had first intended for this project. So it's a pain. So we now just pretty much wait and hope that with a bit of heat and a few heat cycles and a bit of running, that this thing sort of sorts itself out and the valve starts sealing, which does often happen. Anyway, it's just one of those things. It was meant to be a quick and easy job of a few small upgrades for you know, the key for RBs, so that this thing, this little RB25DE could happily make some power with a bit of boost and be happy. Unfortunately, we couldn't have predicted what we were going to find, which was that it had been so severely neglected and in the condition that it was in. I can't predict these things, and obviously can't predict to pay for them or fork it out of our pocket, so it is what it is. We just got to do with the best with what we've got, and currently this is the best that we can do with what we've got. Alright guys, so we're back very briefly with the RB25. So since the clip you just watched, sort of just been going over it in my head and over it and over it, and started releasing content of this recently. Anyway, I've been talking to the owner. We've been talking about a few things. Basically, makes sense. It's been here for a long time, this car, and he's sort of just been keeping on putting money away towards the budget for getting it done. So, you know, we were working with a fairly tight budget, but he's got a bit more to throw at this thing now. Sort of decided he's going to try and find a RB25 box himself so that it can just go together the way he wants it finally and just be done. He doesn't have to worry about doing the box later, which is fair enough. As I said, this thing really sort of would benefit from a good 25 box. It's just the fact that I don't have the time anymore to go chasing up secondhand parts and stuff like that and try and do deals with people and have people mess me around. It cuts into too much time, and like I said, it's time that I can't really charge for. So I was talking to him about that and about how he's got a little bit extra budget and stuff, and I pretty much just said to him, like, I really think that if he has the budget to do it, I'd really like to just pull his head off and get these valves serviced properly. Like I said, it's one of those things. It could be fine, with a few heat cycles, getting a bit of heat into this thing, getting it running, getting some fuel through it, cleaning out the back of them valves. If it's a carbon build-up thing, they usually can come pretty good. They usually come alright. But if it doesn't, well, then it's going to be low on compression, it's going to be hard to start, we're going to be leaving power on the table. You know, it's one of those things. Really, what should have happened is I should have done a leak down on it before I pulled it apart. That's what I should have done. So I'll cop the time for getting it together and pulling it back apart. I'll cop that on the chin. That's up to me, I believe, because I should have done the leak down prior to pulling it down, and I would have had a better idea of what these valves are going to be like. But yeah, anyway, basically, I said to him, if he's got the budget at the moment that he's looking at 25 boxes, I reckon it would be a really good idea for us just to pull his head back off and get it done. Because, you know, we pull it off now, it's already out of the car, it's in the engine stand, like there's not much really. It's pull the timing all off, pull the cams back out, pull the head back off, that's all it is, and go and get it sorted. Especially because, you know, the head gasket's not been hot, nothing's been hot, everything's reusable, so it's a lot less work and money now than it would be to get it into the car, run it, not have it come good, and then we've got to do it all anyway. That's pretty much the plan. So anyway, bit of a kerfuffle, but it's, you know, it's best to do things the proper way, get it done right. So I'm going to pull this head off tomorrow. I've got to go to the machine shop on Monday, so I'll take it down with me then, and we'll pick up this series once again when I get the head back. Gives the owner a few weeks to try and source a box as well. Hopefully we can get this thing sort of finished exactly in the vision that he wants, so that after this it can go to paint and get his kit put on, and it will be actually done. So that's the plan. We've got our head back from the boys there at East Coast Engine Centre in Nambour. They've done a complete valve service for us, which is awesome. So hopefully this time when it goes together, we'll have a far better result of our leak down test. So that should be awesome. So we can finally get this thing back together, be 100% confident in the head, and at this point literally it's been a complete rebuild bar the bottom end. So the only thing that hasn't been replaced on this thing at this point by the time the head goes on is the bottom end bearings and the rings. That's all we could have done, as well as what we've already done. So pretty extensive little debacle. Hopefully should pay off for us in the end of it. So I'm just about to get this outside. I've just unwrapped it from the machine shop, so we're going to go out, give it a good wash down, clean it up properly, and start getting this engine back together, because I really need this bench space back. Hey, and just like that, guys, we have the RB back together for the most part. So we're pretty much ready to go back into the car. There's a few other last little things I've got to finish off. Due to the new Mamba 3076 actually contacting this cover, I am going to have to modify the exhaust manifold a little bit. Those cheap China manifolds sit the exhaust at a really annoying angle, which I don't really understand what's meant to fit on them, but either way it's got to be modified, so that's going to have to happen. So there's a bit to go, but for the most part the engine is finally ready to go back in the car again, with our head finally finished off properly. We know it's going to be okay, and I'm looking forward to finally get this thing back in the car. We've actually got a thermostat in here now. I actually put a different CAS on this thing. The owner's CAS was looking pretty sad, you know, when alloy starts to get all corroded and stuff, so I put a different CAS on this, just a bit nicer to look at. Anyway guys, as much as this thing turned into way more of a headache than it was meant to be, as much as we've had to do so much more to it than we first intended, at least it's done properly, it's done right. Can now go back in the car. We know that the engine's going to do a whole heap more Ks with just routine maintenance and, you know, be fine. So worth doing while we were at it. It's just, it's dragged on, so we've been waiting. You'll see if you keep up with my week in the life vlogs in the next one that's coming out probably next week. There was a purple VL that I did a lot of work to months and months ago, last year before last even. Anyway, the owner actually bought that back. It came back here for another tune. And it has a 25 gearbox in it, and he has been talking about going auto, and I've had my eye on that box because I really wanted to snap it up for this owner so that we had an RB25 box to go into 33 for it. And in the meantime, the owner of that VL just wanted it tuned for around 600 horsepower, so he could go to roll racing and stuff like that until he got his auto. We tuned it literally on this test drive from here, literally on the test drive at 600 wheel horsepower in that VL. It stripped third gear, and third gear in the box went. So there went that idea. So annoying, frustrating. Was really hoping that would work out, but it didn't. But at this stage, it's just not putting it off any longer. At this stage, it's just going to go back together with the RB20 box, and we'll go back to plan A. It's going to be the original plan. It'll still be awesome to drive, and hopefully the owner can pick up an RB25 box at a later date to throw in it. But anyway, that's it for this thing. Finally back together. Thanks for watching. Sorry if this episode's been a bit drawn out and long and whatever it is, but it's just been one of those things. So look forward to the next episode where we get this manifold sorted, get this turbo in, sort out all the lines and everything, and start getting this in the car. So see you then. Smash like, smash subscribe. Peace out. See you. Bye.